Hello guys, and welcome back, or welcome here if you are new. My name is Amy. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking all about my favorite books from 2021. Now, to be honest, it's a little bit hard to choose because I tend to read books that I have a good feeling that I'm really going to enjoy. And as I'm reading them, I do discover there are some that I just absolutely love. And so I'm going to start with like my top 4, and then I have a few honorable mentions, which in reality I could probably mention all the books that I read as an honorable mention, excepting like the ones that I DNF'd. Alright, so let's go ahead and get right on into it. This book I've mentioned so many times and even recently on my channel, so I'm just going to start with that and then move on, and that is The White Christmas Inn. Yes, I do have a Christmas book in this video because this book just hit all the right places, and I've said this before, but it's just so heartwarming and nostalgic. It just has all of the ingredients to make a great top book for 2021. So I'm not going to dive in all about the details. You can find many videos on my channel where I talk about this book, but yes, it is just wonderful, and I am so glad that I was introduced to this book. Next, we have a Denise Hunter book, and that is Autumn Skies. You guys, I love this book so much. Now, I will say that with Denise Hunter, I do enjoy most of her books, but occasionally I will read some where I just don't connect as well with her characters. This one, wow, this one is definitely my favorite of her books that I've read so far. Well, it's kind of a tie between this one and On Magnolia Lane, but I read that back in 2020. But you guys, this book just was so good, and it was so different than what I expected. So you have the two main characters is Grace, and she is one of the owners at the local inn in Bluebell, North Carolina, and she also has a side business. For example, like she rents like hiking equipment, canoes, kayaks, things like that. And her love interest is Wyatt, and he is a Secret Service agent. So he ends up, coming to Bluebell. He's taking some time off. He does have a connection there, which you do find out as the book goes along, but this story just has so many feels to it. I mean, I just could not put this book down. It just surprised me in so many ways. It had several great chapters when they went on this hiking trip. She's wanting to add a guide to her outfitter's business. And so since he was at the inn and he was wanting to do some hiking, she offered to go ahead and take him. And so they go out on a hike together on a guided tour. She's taking him, and then you can imagine all the things that could go wrong. There was some trouble with a group of guys. There were some weather issues, just to name a couple. So there was definitely issues along the way. But yes, there's so much more to the story. I really enjoyed the characters. And yes, this was definitely one of my favorite books of the year. And this is the book that I would highly recommend. Alright, next we have a Becky Wade book, and that is Let It Be Me. This is part of the Misty River Romance. This is book number 2. And you guys, I love this book. So you have the two main characters. Well, there's kind of like 3. There's Ben, Sebastian, and Leah. There's quite a bit of backstory to this book, but I will tell you that this book is so good. There's so much to the story. It starts off where Leah discovers something about herself in relation to her family. And so now that she's found out this news, she definitely starts to research, and she realizes that Sebastian can help. And so that is how they kind of start forming a relationship. Ben is kind of picking up on this, and so him and Sebastian kind of have some friction. And Sebastian, he's the type of person where he walks into the room and he just like owns it. And she's not really intimidated. I mean, she stands up to him, and that's why I think they are such a great pair. So I definitely would recommend this book as well. It is so good. You could read it as a standalone, but you guys, read the whole Misty River Romance. At least so far, book 1 and book 2, you will not be disappointed. Alright, and we have another Becky Wade book, and that is Sweet on You. So this is book 3 of the Bradford sisters romance. They have been best friends for many years, and he has been in love with her, but she hasn't really uncovered those feelings yet. She's had many boyfriends along the way, and they just never work out, and she doesn't know why. So basically in book 2, he leaves Like, he pretty much doesn't give much warning. He wrote a book that really took off, and so with some of his earnings, he said, you know what, I'm going to take a year off and travel. He was just so tired of seeing Bree going out with all these guys that he knew were not ever going to work out. And so he wanted just some time and space. While he was gone, she really misses him. So when he comes back in book 3, that's when things start to change, and she realizes that maybe there is more than just friendship. Also, Bree, she is a chocolatier, so that is really fun to read about. She talks all about some of her chocolate recipes and just all of that. And you've got chocolate, you've got romance. I mean, it's just all the feels. The other thing I like about the series just in general is that it takes place in the Pacific Northwest in Washington. So when the, atmosphere and the geography is described, it's just so beautiful. That is one place that I've always wanted to visit, so I love reading about that. But yes, I would definitely recommend Sweet on You. Honestly, the whole series, but this book was my favorite. And then, like I said, I do have a few honorable mentions, which again, it could be most of the books I read, but these 3 specifically I wanted to just throw out there. Back to the Bradford Sisters romance. So you have True to You, which is book 1, and then you have Falling for You, book 2. So I loved both of these books. The first book follows Nora. She is the middle sister. She is a genealogist, and her love interest is a Navy SEAL. She is very like old-fashioned. She's very sweet, but she's very smart, and she is trying to help this Navy SEAL uncover some information as well. Another mystery, some romance. I mean, again, this is very heartfelt, a very good story. The only negative thing that I would say, which is why it's not in like my top tier, is because kind of in the middle, it did get like a little slow for me, but just a little bit. But other than that, it was very, very good and highly recommend. And then you have Falling for You, and this follows Willow and Corbin. She is a model, like a high profile, famous model, and Corbin, he is a pro football player who has won like, Super Bowls and that sort of thing. Now, to be honest, I wasn't sure that I could connect with these characters. Even though Corbin is kind of like a larger than life personality, he is still very relatable and down to earth at the same time. Then you have Willow, and even though she's like this famous supermodel, there's so much more to her. And so that I really loved. There is a lot of issues going on in the background. Corbin and his dad, and even Willow and Corbin's dad. And so there's a lot to the story. Reconciliation and healing, and it's just really good. So I would highly recommend this whole series. Even though I primarily will read romance books, there's a lot more to those stories. I mean, you almost always have either some kind of mystery or some kind of family story going on. Becky Wade is probably one of my top authors. She's just so good. And yes, so I would definitely recommend those books. And then lastly, I do have another Denise Hunter book, and that is Lake Season. This is book 1 of the Bluebell Inn series. And so book 3 was the Autumn Skies, which was in my top. This follows Molly, and she is the oldest sister. Her love interest is Adam Bradford, and he's an author, and she doesn't know who he is, but he comes to the inn, and he's telling her he's there to do some research. Their first meetup is so cute. Like, she thinks that he is the person her brother hired to come help her move furniture or do something with furniture, and he just kind of goes along with it, and it's just so funny. He's just so laid back, and Molly, she's just so like energetic and fun. So they are a great couple. Also, something cute in this story is every once in a while she would say something to him in Italian. She, along with her sister and brother, do run the inn, which that is what she went to school for. Her dream is to have a bed and breakfast in, I believe it was Italy. But the main aspect of this story is she finds a letter because the house used to be an old post office back in the day, and this letter never got sent to the owner, and she finds it and she is like distraught. She is so upset. So because Adam is there doing research, she's like, hey, this is perfect. He can help me research and find the owners of this letter. That is how they get close and everything. But there is a little side story back in the 1960s that revolves around the letter. And let me tell you, that is very sad. Because, you know, back in the 60s, things were different. Some things were just not accepted. And there's a couple things that happen with the people in the letter, and it's just very hard to read about. But I think Denise Hunter did a good job because Molly and Adam's story was so light and fun. Having the other story in there that was a lot heavier, it was a good balance. So overall, I would definitely recommend this book. Alright guys, well there you have it. There are my top books from 2021. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that maybe I gave you some new recommendations. Alright, well I'm going to wrap this up, and until next time, take care guys. Bye!